Sometimes your list is so big you have to split it up into two videos, so we're not talking top 10 best movies of the year today. We're talking my honorable mentions, number 25 through 11. So, what is up, Fleek fans? Welcome back to my channel. I can't believe we've made it all the way until the end of 2021. It's crazy. And movies this year have been so up and down, but more up, I guess, than 2020. I've seen some really good films, and today we're going to talk about, in my opinion, the best of the best. These are the movies that I responded to the most. Now, as always, my list is personal. Yours is going to differ. That's the beauty of movies, and looking at my list, we have a little bit of everything from streaming platform movies to hardcore independent artistic films to a lot of blockbusters, so a wide range. I need you guys in the comments down below letting me know, what are your favorite films of the year? What do you expect to be in my top 10? Leave your predictions, because if you can nail some of my top 10 picks in my top 10 video, I'll include some of your guys' comments. And of course, if you like what you see here and you love these end of the year videos, be sure to drop your thumbs up to support this channel. But let's get into it, starting at Inception. And I don't mean the movie. We're doing honorable mentions for the honorable mentions? What? Just some films I want to make sure get mentioned. I really enjoyed Last Night in Soho, a very different movie from Edgar Wright. Encanto is a beautiful Disney film. I had a great time. Que Vadis Aida, nobody really talks about this, an international film from earlier in the year, but it was an absolutely stunning film. Nobody. The action movie. My goodness, this was a showcase for Bob Odenkirk. I had such a good time watching Little Fish, starring Olivia Cooke and Jack O'Connell, a film that nobody talked about, but I watched it a bit later and was blown away by the themes in this movie. And in the final film, Riders of Justice, starring Mads Mikkelsen, a dark comedy with action and dramatic beats that stands out as one of the most different and exciting movies of the year. Those are some of my picks, but they're not in the top 25. Let's get into that list right now. How about a super genuine and heartfelt film based on a true story about Venus and Serena Williams? This is King Richard. I had such a good time watching this movie. Will Smith gives an awesome performance, and you know, at this point, I would say he's still kinda the front runner for the Oscar. Andrew Garfield coming right on his heels, but you know what? This is everything that we thought it would be, plus more, because not only is it a crowd-pleasing movie with some awesome sports-centric, heartfelt moments, but it's genuinely a good script all about a man who, you know, tries his best to do everything he can for his daughters, but he's not overwhelming and overbearing, even though some people see it like that. And Venus and Serena, being producers on this movie, kind of allowing us to see this through their perspective, is a beautiful thing. So very well directed. I hope it's in Oscar contention this year, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. All right, y'all know me. We got to throw in something out of the box in this top 25. And the Demon Slayer movie is one of those films that clearly not everyone's going to be familiar with, but if you've watched the show and you're excited for season 2, you're going into this film not knowing what to expect. It's the most perfect bridge to season 2, but it also does so much for all of our characters, one in particular that we've been kind of begging to learn more about. The animation, stunning. The art style, beautiful. Some of these action scenes on top of and inside of this train. And I love the fact that it keeps it doesn't get as complex as maybe you expect. It's almost super simplified because we're in this one location or in and out of this location throughout most of the film. But in that way, it's really cool. It has Studio Ghibli vibes, even though I wouldn't say it's, again, as complex as those narratives. Overall, if you're a Demon Slayer fan and you like the anime, excited for season 2, this is a movie that I would recommend. Go from anime to animation, and I just talked about this on my Netflix list. This is The Mitchells versus the Machines. I had a great time with this movie. Genuinely great. It's fun. It's exciting. The banter, the silliness between the kids and the parents, the idea that this family, this quirky, weird, very different, the way that they act towards each other family, they can save the world if they can put aside their differences. And I love that. And, you know, speaking upon the creators from Spider-Verse, didn't direct the movie, but they produced it, you can feel that distinction from other animated films. And the movie looks incredible. I hope Mitchells at least give some of these other animated films that make it for the Oscar a run for their money, because I found it to be an absolutely great time. It breaks my heart because no one's talking about Mask. Some of the best performances you'll see not only all year, but all decade. which is still all year. Gotcha. But you're looking at Jason Isaacs and Martha Plimpton and Reed Birney and Dowd especially. I still think there's hope for her to get a nomination. But the release schedule, and most of you all watching, you're probably like, Austin, what is this? Or, hey, I saw the trailer, but no opportunities in my city. I don't know what they're doing here, because there's no wide release. They never took one of those solid release dates in early December, took that opportunity and said, hey world, here's our movie. Instead, they're doing it like theater by theater, staying there for 3 days and then leaving. The film itself, it's beautiful, it's simplistic. One location, they're having conversations. It's a big old dialogue fest, but the screenwriting is so good, and what they're talking about is such a heartbreaking subject. I mean, you will be devastated by the time this movie ends, all from dialogue. I think that is awesome. The direction is great. Mass is a wonderful movie. Unfortunately, it's just not getting the attention it deserves. Tick, tick, boom. This is one of those films that I just never stopped thinking about after I saw it. And we talked about it on my Netflix list, so I'll be brief. But Andrew Garfield's performance has stuck in my brain, because not only do we know now that he's a great singer and he's a great performer, but he can give emotion in a way that makes you feel like he is and forever will be that person, even though he's played countless characters that we know and love. And if there was ever a year for him to be in contention for the Oscars, it was during The Social Network in 2010. But if there was another year, you hear me, Academy? We should be in contention. It's this year with Tick, Tick, Boom. I thought Lin-Manuel Miranda's direction was really great. I mean, genuinely, for his first time behind the camera like that, it's impressive. Visually, that's the only aspect of the movie that didn't blow me away like some of these other musicals, but everything else worked really great, and I thought the writing was super impressive. What can I say? I had a really great time with In the Heights. I was dancing, and my wife and I were in the theater like, this is ridiculously fun. Like, so much fun. Now, I do think there are some side characters that didn't entirely get the fleshing out that they needed to leave a lasting impact. But for the most part, In the Heights is just one of those films that you can't take your eyes off of. And a couple of these characters that will stick with me for a long time, talking Anthony Ramos playing Usnavi. He's so good in this film. Corey Hawkins. My favorite, though, Olga Merediz, who plays Abuela. No one's talking about her, but I am still of the mindset that she gives one of the best supporting performances of the year. Her song is wonderful, but 96,000... I haven't stopped listening to it. I looked at my list and I said, did Judas and the Black Messiah come out this year? Because I know it was last year's Oscar season. It doesn't feel like it came out this year. Still, I think this is one of the best movies of the year. It's a wonderfully made film. You can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. That's kind of the tagline here. It's the story of Fred Hampton, played by Daniel Kaluuya, Lakeith Stanfield, Jesse Plemons. I mean, the film is stacked from top to bottom, and it's one of those movies that takes great cinematography and great technical elements, combining it with a story that's just so impactful, and the way that it fleshes out its characters. And I'm not just putting it on my list because they used my quote in the trailers. You like my lack of subtlety there? I thought that was pretty cool, but I meant every word I said. I thought this movie was so well made. Say it with me. Shang-Chi is one of the best Marvel origin stories. Now, all together, listen, I had a great time with Shang-Chi, like genuinely a great time. It's one of those movies that you go back and you rewatch it, and some of the very minor issues I had the first time, like when they enter that very colorful and outlandish world, that kind of threw me off at first because of the tone shift. But when I watched it the second time, I almost found it to be one of my favorite parts of the movie because it's so beautiful and stunning. And I believe this is one of the best looking Marvel movies we've ever seen. Part of that is Bill Pope. He's a great cinematographer. But the direction here, giving us an origin story that feels fresh, but it keeps the Marvel isms that we know and love. And really, I enjoyed all of the Marvel movies this year on different levels, but Shang-Chi is the one that came out of the blue, my least anticipated, and said, you know what, you're going to love me. And I do. The Summit of the Gods, we talked about it on my Netflix list. This is a movie that people just need to see. If you like rock climbing movies or this type of visually stunning film about someone's journey who is just obsessed with this, I would call it a sport at this point, but being on top, right? Not only physically, but emotionally, because there's a journey here, actually a couple of stories. One emotional flashback that really gets you worked up, and it plays into the final act of the film. So, from that standpoint, it's really cool. Oh, did I mention this is an animated movie? We're never getting animated movies like this that showcase this type of thing. We've seen countless documentaries about rock climbing, but never an animated film with this kind of stunning animation. The Summit of the Gods, if you like these types of films, it's slower, and it's not for kids, but it's one of the best animated movies I've seen in quite some time.
Here's the fanboy.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you guys. I was looking forward to Zack Snyder's Justice League. I was. But I didn't think it would be this good. Right? I knew it would be an improvement on the original, and after watching the original and this movie back to back, when I got my screener for this film, I said to myself, oh boy, that's worse than I thought it was, because this movie is everything that I wanted that movie to be, and it brought together our heroes in a way that is just... It's awesome. Now, it's a long time. It's lengthy. It's, 4 hours? 3.5, 4 hours? That's a lot of Justice League. But as someone who grew up with these characters, watched the animated series, DC, my favorite comics, I prefer DC Comics over Marvel, to see them come to life in this way is just the coolest. And even though there were scenes that could have been cut down or taken out in their entirety, I just had a great time while watching this, and I do not feel bad putting this on my end of the year list because I am so impressed with how much better this was than the other one. That kind of sucks. Spencer, not my brother-in-law, his name's Spencer, but we're talking the movie starring Kristen Stewart, and it's a movie that goes at its own pace, and it starts out, you get 20 minutes of very little to no dialogue, and I know a lot of people that just didn't like the film, but I found it to be a beautiful and artistic expression of kind of who this version of the character was that they were representing on screen, and her performance, I don't need to talk about it anymore because she is magnetic in this movie. I didn't know she had it in her. I'll be honest, I had no clue, but she did. She blew me away. The movie is gorgeous. The cinematography is top-notch. It's almost perfect. Some of these supporting performances are good, but it's really all about her. She gets the majority of the screen time. I love the exploration of her and her kids and where the movie progresses to. I just thoroughly enjoyed this experience, and it's one of those movies that stuck with me long after watching. Yeah. Y'all just going to sit back and not talk about 9 days, are you? I watched 9 days, what was it, like a year and a half ago, and I absolutely fell in love with this movie, and then it got delayed and delayed again, and then I moved it from last year's list to this year's list, and I finally get to talk about it, and it's still in the top 25. It's an Otis film all about this man who conducts a series of interviews with human souls for a chance to be born. So think Pixar's Soul, and I actually watched this before I watched Soul. That's how long ago it was. So I compared Soul to this. This is sort of an adult version of that, but a very different type of story. But for me, it's the performances. It's Zazie Beetz. It's Winston Duke. It's the monologue at the end. It's the gorgeous cinematography. It's a film that people are just not talking about. And it breaks my heart. So if you get the chance to see 9 days, it's a slower film, but if you can get invested, then I think it's going to impact a lot of people.
Bond. James Bond.
Oh, did you hear my voice? Okay, no time to die. Look, I know it's not the type of James Bond. I have a friend who is a massive James Bond fan, and he walked out of this movie and he said, that's not the James Bond that I know, but it's such a good movie. It's like there's this confliction for hardcore Bond fans, and I understand they're going in a very different direction, but not a direction that takes away from the character, in my opinion. And as someone who is a modern Bond fan, but I've never really been a huge fan of the character in general. I like the movies. I think they're really good, but I'm not over the moon about them. So I love this movie. I genuinely loved it. I thought it was a very well-made and well-directed film, but Craig's final performance as this character, the way his character goes out, I thought was suiting and beautiful and wonderful and impactful. It's a little lengthy, but when you combine the cinematography with the expertly directed action and give us a story that does occasionally forget about some villainous aspects, but still a compelling villain in general, I loved it. What do I say? It's in my top 25. Paul Thomas Anderson. You say the name and people automatically know you're in for something special, but Licorice Pizza is a very different type of special. We're used to, at least more recently, a specific type of movie, evoking specific emotions from him, but this film feels a bit more laid back and less focused on making you feel like you have to be on the edge of your seat, and more so like, how about a nice coming-of-age story, and one that showcases two characters that are in completely different stages of their lives, but never handles this relationship in a way that is off-putting. It's always charming, and the writing in general is just really, really good in this film. I love the banter, the dialogue, the back and forth, and really what comes from that is those types of chuckles that just have you consistently entertained throughout the movie. There's never a belly laugh, and there's never a moment where you're like, man, this plot is one of the more interesting and different plots I've ever seen. No, we've seen these types of movies before. It's all about the execution. Anytime you have PTA behind the camera, you're going to get that. Plus, a visually stunning movie. I thought the cinematography and color grading in this movie is just incredible. So Licorice Pizza is a great time in the theater. It's that kind of experience, and I hope people get to watch it soon. How about The Worst Person in the World? A Norwegian film, absolutely just incredibly different and fresh, and something that I haven't seen anything like all year. So if you don't know what this movie is or what it's about, it's from Neon. It chronicles 4 years in the life of Julie, who navigates the troubled waters of her love life and struggles to find her career path. And this leads her to take a realistic look at who she really is. There's this confliction between two individuals, one relationship and the other, but two very different paths, and she doesn't necessarily know what she wants for herself. And at points through the film, she has these visions where she's recollecting what her life has been, where it could go, but there's also this indecisiveness that I believe we're all kind of experiencing when we get into our mid-20s, like me, and it may be about other things, maybe not relationships, maybe not your career path, but we all experience that at some point, and I thought this movie just did an awesome job of showcasing that, and the performances. Why aren't we talking about these performances? The character of Julie is so riveting. I want to see her in, like, everything. She's so good as this character, but it's more so the style, and a couple of scenes combining animation, a couple of scenes that are, like, grotesque, and the imagery is kind of freaky, but they work in the context of what the movie does, and there is a moment in the film where everyone kind of freezes, and she's going on this little individual journey, and I loved it, man. It was one of the coolest things I've seen all year. So The Worst Person in the World, Martin Scorsese said it best. This is cinema. That sounds like Al Pacino. And number 10, I'm not going to tell you yet. You guys have to wait until, I believe tomorrow is when my video is releasing. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Come back tomorrow. Like I said, leave your predictions. What is my top 10 and what is the order? You guys could probably tell some of the movies that are coming, but hey, I want to say I appreciate it big time. All of your support, your likes, your comments, man, it means the world to me. I've had a great year. We've watched a lot of movies, almost 300 new and original films, and I still want to talk more. So we're going to do top 10 movies, top 10 worst, and TV series. All of those countdowns are coming. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Christmas, and I'll see you soon.